So, this is a newbie special. So last week we talked about how to get started with the human being diet. And this week is for newbies who've actually started, and a big and heartfelt and warm and loving hello to you, dear newbies. And I hope that this will be helpful to you. So a quick recap on the advice from last week. Read the book, The Human Being Diet, and read it again. That's this book here. It's the second edition and it came out in 2023. That's the number one and most important rule. And you can find it on Amazon and also on our website, which is humanbeingdiet.com. Central to the book is something called deep learning, because knowledge, as we know, is power. So do please empower yourself by reading the book and understanding or getting to understand how your metabolism works. It's a lighter read than you might think. I know it sounds a bit hardcore, sort of metabolism and that kind of thing. And there is lots of science in it, but I hope that it's presented in a light and engaging way rather than a heavy and dry way. So reading the book is a must. You owe it to yourself to succeed, to put the legwork in, to really make HBD your own. It's really no good just following other people on Instagram or copying what other people are doing on Instagram, because you don't know, they might be making unwitting mistakes. So it's really, really important, and I know it sounds like it's going to be hard work, but it's a couple of hours to read the book, to really get the rules, to understand the rationale behind the rules. And then once you've read it once, read it again and keep it by your bed and dip in and out of it, because you'll find something new every time you do read it. It's really, really important. Understanding the rationale behind the rules sets yourself up for success, and that's what we want. And once you really get the rules, you won't be tempted to cheat or go off course, because you'll understand what that's doing to your metabolism and how cheating ultimately is self-sabotage, and you definitely don't want to do that. So set yourself up for success, read the book and read it again. And by the way, if you bought the first edition of the book, which was written in 2017, was published in 2018, and you're thinking, well, that book's good enough because maybe you've just started to embrace the idea of jumping in and starting HBD now, please do buy yourself the new edition. So much new research is available, so much has changed, and it will make your HBD voyage and your life very much easier, I promise. So I think it's 15 quid on Amazon, and it's very possibly the best 15 quid you'll ever spend. So please do get the second edition. And don't rely on the cookbook for the up-to-date food lists. It's this second edition that has got the most up-to-date food lists and everything else. And as I said last week, and you lovely people who are here, you already are. You are joining us on this weekly live, and the lives are always 6:30, which is 1:30 Eastern Standard. And hear HBD's stories to inspire you and ask questions and get to know other people in the community. And look back at past lives. They really are an invaluable resource, and they're all on my grid. So do have a look back at those. Point number 3, a deep dive into your whys. What do you want to change? Why is it important to you? And like we said last week, it's important to you if it's having a negative impact on joy in your life. Is it weight loss or pain and inflammation or asthma or eczema? Whatever it is, it's important to you, and it's really important that you write it down. And if you haven't already written down your whys in great detail, and you've already started, this is a good moment to do it. It's really important that you delve deep into that, because there will be hard days when you're following the program. And if you're really clear about why you're doing it and what you want to change, and you've got that written down and distilled for you personally to read, then when you are having a hard day, you can look back on that and say, yeah, I remember now, that's why I'm doing it. This is why it's so important to me. Really, really key. If you haven't already started, decide on your start date now. Put it in your diary. There is never, ever a perfect moment to start. We all know that. But the most important thing is that you do make a start and make it fit in with whatever is going on around you. Obviously not if you're on holiday or planning to go on holiday. That's not the right moment to start. But when you're at home, it doesn't really matter what parties or other events are going on. You can fit HBD into your life. But do remember that the first 16 days are sacrosanct. They mustn't be interrupted. There's something magical in those first 16 days. And remember that if you go off the rails in the first 16 days, you have to start again, and you won't want to do that. But if you're really itching to get going, and I did say this last week as well, but you haven't got 16 clear days for a while, why not jump in with phase 3? Getting rid of the processed food and sugar, and getting rid of the wheat, and drinking lots of water, and just getting going with really making yourself feel better. There's a lot to be said for doing it now. Number 5, buddy up with someone if you possibly can, whether it be an old friend or somebody you've met on Instagram. Look for HBD accounts on Instagram that resonate with you. And there will be accounts and you think, yeah, I really like what this person's writing, and so follow them. And yes, make remarks on their posts, reshare their posts, and of course look at stories too. Number 6, get yourself a copy of the HBD cookbook. Some people erroneously think that that is the program. It's just a companion. The HBD cookbook is a companion to the main book, The Human Being Diet, and it doesn't explain the program. But what it is a beautiful recipe book which is designed to make your life easier. It contains recipes for omnivores, vegetarians and vegans, and the recipes are simple and delicious, and many of them, as we were talking about last week, are one-pot dishes. A lot to be said for that because there's less washing up and they are all delicious. So that's a win-win. Point number 7, very, very important, actually commit. Make a commitment to yourself. Even if you started, keep recommitting to yourself. Committing to yourself to honour yourself and to be patient and kind with yourself. And if you haven't already started, know that it's normal to feel apprehensive or nervous. It's completely normal. And try and reframe that feeling into excitement and into the feeling about how excited you are going forward to getting going with HBD. And talking about commitment, and Ricardo shared this with me a few years ago, and I recently came across it again, and it's one of my most favourite quotes about the magic of commitment, and it's very HBD apt. So here it is. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help us that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from that decision, raising in our favour all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which no one could have dreamed would have come our way. And that was written by William Hutchinson Murray, and he ended that, he was in the Scottish Himalayan expedition at the time, and he ended that beautiful quote with these words, "I've learnt a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do, or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now." I just love that. It makes the hair on it makes my hair stand on end. I just think it's so powerful and so important, and it's really, really true that when we do jump off the fence and we commit to something, all sorts of magical things occur. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will share it on the recording that goes up on the grid too. Number 8, sign up for the newsletter on the website, which is thehumanbeingdiet.com, for new blogs and for news on what's happening in the HBD world, including events. And do have a look at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@Petronella the Human Being Diet, because that's where we're starting to populate the most popular Instagram lives as well as shorts. So I hope that's a useful resource for you as well. So coming back to the nitty-gritty, phase 1, the first 2 days on HBD. Vegetables only, no apple until phase 2. If you're afraid of doing the Epsom salts and that's kind of putting you off starting, please don't be afraid. It's a suggestion. It's not a must do. It's not obligatory. It's a suggestion to take the Epsom salts because they serve to minimise potential detox symptoms, because remember, you'll be going cold turkey on lots of things that your body's come to rely on, like wheat and sugar and maybe processed foods and lots of starchy carbohydrates so bread and things like that. So it's not obligatory. If that's holding you up, the thought of the Epsom salts, don't let it hold you up, just jump in. Really, really important. Get to bed early and do as little as possible. That really goes for both the two phases of the reset, phase 1 and phase 2. And it's a good thing to start at the weekend if you haven't already started. But if you have started and it was midweek, well done you. Well done for jumping in. And I hope it's going really, really well. For any questions, this is another reason to get the second edition of the Human Being Diet, because this resource was sadly missing in the first edition, was first of all a good index, a really comprehensive index, and secondly, a very useful glossary. So that's another reason to get the second edition, because all the answers you need are there. I promise you, they really are. And if you're wondering whether or not a certain food is permitted, this is phase 2 really, look at the food lists in the Human Being Diet second edition, and if it's not listed there, it means it's not allowed. If it's not listed, it doesn't mean that we've forgotten about it. It means that we're only focusing on nutrient-dense foods that give you the biggest bang for your buck, and those are the ones listed on the food list. So remember, if it's not listed, it's not allowed. So don't bother or don't worry about asking questions about that, because the answer will always be no. Sorry. Again, it's normal in phase 2 to feel tired and lightheaded. It's because your body is, especially as I just said, if it's come to rely on starchy carbs and sugar, is trying to find an alternative energy source. And that alternative energy source, rather than the incoming starchy carbs and sugar that our bodies come to rely on, is our stored body fat. So it's normal to feel tired. It's normal to feel lightheaded. And that's another reason why exercise, any kind of vigorous exercise, other than walking, is not allowed in the first 2 phases, and really not recommended until you're quite a long way into phase 3. Because we don't have the energy, and we're sabotaging our body's attempts to find the alternative source of energy, which is stored body fat. Because after all, we want to spend more time in the rest, digest, repair mode of the nervous system, which is parasympathetic, and much less time in the sympathetic branch of the nervous system, which is the go, go, go part. But having said it's normal to feel tired and maybe a bit hard done by, it is also normal, because I get lots of messages about this, to feel pretty fabulous almost straight away, depending on what your diet was like before you started HBD. So it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. You could easily be one of the lucky ones who feels really great straight away. And I think that I have printed out the wrong pages of this, but I might be able to do something about that. I also wanted to say, treat the first 16 days of phase 1 and 2 as sacrosanct. So just to reiterate that, so remember, if you go off plan, if you go off track, if you eat anything that's not listed in the food list for the first two phases, it means starting again, and you definitely don't want to do that. So I tried to print this out again, but it's in rather small writing, but I'm going to see if I can read it. So yeah, phase 1, phase 2, for any questions, just to repeat that, look at the glossary in the second edition and have a look in the index. Everything's there. It really, really is. Remember, talking about treating the first 2 phases as sacrosanct, if you crash out of phase 2 by eating sugar or grains or having a drink, wine or alcohol that is, other than water, or anything that's not on the list, it means starting phase 2 all over again. And as we said, you definitely don't want to do that. Stay strong. Look at the bigger picture and know that you can do this. And you'll be so proud of yourself for getting through it and getting into phase 3. I get the most lovely, ecstatic messages from people who never thought that they could get through the first 16 days. They might never have thought that they could stop eating sugar or stop eating chocolate, but they did. And they got to day 17, and it is the most elating, wonderful, magical feeling. And you can do it too. There's always that tendency to think, well, they did it, but maybe it won't work for me. It will. I promise it will work. The vision with HBD is to establish new principles to live by. It's about embracing a new way of life. It's about getting to know your body and getting to trust yourself again. It's about reacquainting yourself with your taste buds. I know that sounds a bit weird. You will be amazed. I can almost promise you, when you get into phase 2 and you have that first apple, it will taste like no apple ever has done in the past. And the same with the protein, whatever it is you decide to have for your breakfast, whether it's tofu or tempeh or eggs or salmon or fish, whatever it is, it will never ever taste so good. Read the rules and read them again. Really, really get what HBD is about, and that way it's almost impossible to go off track, I promise you. Keep a food diary, and this is really for all phases. And it's really important because not only does it help you track your meals and stops you getting stuck in a rut and eating the same vegetables every day, every week, but it also helps you keep tabs on what combinations of food keep you going for the longest time, which breakfast keeps you going for the longest. Especially useful for breakfast. And it also helps you keep tabs on foods that might be bloating you or making you tired or achy. So it's really, really important. And also, I like to say, take HBD a day at a time. It's like you've probably seen those cartoons of the staircase. You're not standing at the bottom looking at the entire staircase in advance. You're standing at the bottom looking at the next step. And that's really, really key. So avoid thinking too much about tomorrow or next week and relax in the knowledge that every successfully completed day is another step towards your goals and to your great health. It's really, really important. Also, just a word on troubleshooting phase 2, and there is a section on that in the second edition. But what I didn't put in there, which will be in the next small update, not a whole new edition, will be that the most common reason for weight loss stalls in phase 2 is constipation. If you're not having a proper bowel movement every day, it's going to really slow you down. So read pages 195 to 197 to help you find out what to do to sort that out. Really, really key. But by the way, it is normal not to have a poop at all if you've done the Epsom salts for about 3 days. That's entirely normal. Because you've had a really good clear out, there's nothing left to poop at, because it takes about 3 days for that whole process to start again. So I really hope that's been helpful, and I can see that Gigi and Lara have been answering the questions, and I'm just going to have a look at the questions in the little box now. So here they are. Mickey B76, I want to start the reset but found out today I might have gallstones. Should I hold off? Nope, that's absolutely fine. So remember that one of the important components of the human being diet is apple. And apples contain malic acid, which actually helps to soften gallstones. The only thing I would warn you against is eating a whole plateful of rocket, for instance, because that can cause the gallbladder to contract and that could squeeze the stone out. But if you're following HBD to the letter, you'll know that it's recommended that the vegetables, there are at least 3 vegetables to each meal, which means that you couldn't overdo the rocket because you'd have to mix it with, say, carrots or broccoli or green beans or something instead. So don't let that put you off, Mickey, and let us know how you get on. HBD Sarah's question, what would you recommend for long night of travelling? We have a ferry at 10 p.m, then sharing an 11-hour drive through France to our holiday home. How lovely. Worried about when to eat, as bound to get hungry. Well, with any luck, you might sleep on the ferry at 10 o'clock, so I would say start that day later than normal. Have a late breakfast, a late lunch, and then aim to eat late as well. Obviously, it's not ideal, but on a travelling day such as that, I think it's going to really help. And then have breakfast when you wake up. We'll arrive for breakfast at 9 a.m. Yeah, that's perfect. So you might also think about taking a quick, easy-to-eat breakfast with you, which would be 35 grams of walnuts or sunflower and pumpkin seeds with an apple. That's a perfect breakfast. And thinking about your supper before you go to sleep, as you get onto the ferry, or just before you get onto the ferry. Things like smoked mackerel with salad, hard-boiled eggs, tofu squares marinated in something homemade. Those are all good options with crudité, raw vegetables or salad. And have a lovely, lovely holiday. And Sunwater Beaches says, will there be a second cookbook coming? I'm addicted to the easy recipes. Thank you so much. There aren't any plans at the moment, but I'm sure there will be eventually. And also do keep tabs on the website because there will be recipes added to that. So more news on that soon. And Lynn 1207, why nuts, seeds only for breakfast? Good question. It's because nuts and seeds they're not particularly high in protein. What they are high in is fat. And you'll know that the first 2 weeks, especially, of HBD are pretty low fat. So you want to give your liver a break from processing fat, because that's one of its many important jobs. And if you have more than 35 grams for lunch or supper, you're going to be giving your liver a lot of work. So that's why. I hope that helps. And nuts and seeds do make, and I know it doesn't sound very exciting, they do make the most delicious breakfast. I grind my seeds and have them with an apple that's either grated or chopped up in a mini food processor with salt and pepper and cinnamon, and it's really yummy. So I hope that helps answer your question. And thanks for those questions. I find it very hard to get back onto HBD after the summer. If you were in phase 4 and you went away on holiday, just get back to phase 3. So really refocus. Phase 3 is the safe place that you can always come back to when things might have got slightly out of hand, i.e. too much joy on holiday, whatever it might be. So come back to phase 3 for a couple of days. Or if you actually put weight on, come back to phase 3 until the weight's disappeared again, which typically after a holiday is a matter of days, and then get back onto phase 4. I've fallen in love with poached eggs since starting HBD. Are more than 2 a day really a bad idea? Yes, 2 a day is perfect. But you want as much variety in your protein as well as your vegetables, even more important, as possible, to make sure you're not missing out on any micronutrients. So 2 eggs a day is perfect, no more than that. And then at your other meal, have fish or meat or chicken or tempeh or tofu, and mix it up as much as you possibly can. Variety is the key, and no more than 14 a week. Thanks, Gigi. Spot on. Absolutely right. Does someone with Raynaud's need to exclude nightshades and beans? What could they use instead of tomatoes? No, Raynaud's it's more of a circulation problem than anything else. And personally, I found that iodine really helped. But if you're concerned, I do recommend that everybody starting, unless they've got absolutely nothing going on health-wise at all, gets rid of nightshades. I think that's really, really important. What could you use instead of tomatoes? Well, you can't use peppers either at that stage, but once you're in phase 3, if you've eliminated nightshades, you can reintroduce them one by one. So you could start with tomatoes, or you could start with peppers, or you could start with aubergine. But reintroduce things one by one and allow at least 3 days between each introduction. I hope that helps. I think HBD midwife, my friend's husband is due to undergo surgery, and she's asked me to ask you if HBD would be a healthy diet for him prior to and after surgery. He doesn't need to lose weight, just nutritional value. No, there aren't really enough calories, and there isn't enough protein, because we really need lots of protein following surgery to allow our bodies to repair. It doesn't mean he has to live on junk. He can still get rid of the sugar and the refined carbohydrates and the starchy carbs, and just eat lots more protein and lots of vegetables, and probably supplement with omega-3 fatty acids. But do check that with the doctor, because some doctors don't like omega-3 following an operation, because it can make the blood thinner. So check on supplements, but just meantime have a really nutrient-dense, fabulous whole food diet. That's the best thing for healing. And then about 3 months, depending on what type of surgery it is, about 3 months after surgery, then that's the moment to get strict with HBD. With the HBD help with rheumatoid, I'm not making any claims for HBD. I am making claims for the curative healing powers of natural whole food. And there are lots of people who are on here with various autoimmune diseases, including RA, rheumatoid arthritis, who have really had great success with HBD and seeing their autoimmune antibodies receding and feeling better. So yes, do join in. One of the autoimmune ladies is with us today. That's type 1D_HBD, Deb. So do have a follow of her as well. And Teresa Moriarty 2424 says, I'm loving HBD. I'm in phase 3. I get night cramps. Any suggestions? Again, that would be magnesium, Epsom salt baths. As Gigi said, Don't take magnesium if you have kidney problems, but other than that, really good. Sprouting seeds, no, just have normal seeds. That's the best. Bronfit Journey, another fantastic HBDer, lovely HBDer, who has also got autoimmune things going on, so follow her. Bronfit Journey, Bron HBD Fit Journey, all one word. I only reintroduced them later in phase 3 organic nightshades, one at a time. I still use them sparingly but have no reaction now, 7 months in on autoimmune. That's amazing, Bron. Thanks for sharing that. Dairy and gluten are my no-goes. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie Beadle. Just ordered the book. I have Crohn's. I'm very sorry to hear that, hun. Is HBD going to help? I wouldn't do the Epsom salts. I would stay well clear of nightshades and also dairy and gluten until you're well into phase 3, and then start testing food to see how you get on. Sober Dave, lovely to see you here. He says, wonderful live yet again. Thank you, Petronella. Thank you, Sober Dave. Thanks for the great live we did together, and thank you for joining. Really lovely to see you here. Murphy's B says, I'm on phase 2, day 13, very little energy. When I went for a walk on Sunday, I noticed later muscle pain. Any suggestions? Take it as easy as you possibly can. Have Epsom salt baths. Do as little as you can. Normally by day 13 the energies come back, but if it hasn't, let your body be your guide. Maybe go for walks, but very slow, very gentle. Take it as easy as you possibly can. And for muscle pain, magnesium is always helpful, so Epsom salt baths and supplementing with magnesium as well. And as Gigi said, also consider electrolytes. Very important. No additives, no sugar, just plain. There we go. So thanks to everybody for your questions. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your questions. And next week we will be talking phase 3. And also always a recap on this. But thank you so much for joining, and see you next week. Have a fabulous week. Bye.